Good evening. This is Eswatini TV News at 8, read to you by myself, Nathalie Sitole, alongside Namakabiso Nkambule. First up, let's have a look at our headlining stories. The Kingdom of Eswatini has received over 300,000 doses of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine from the U.S. government. About 697 people have been arrested following the looting of shops and vandalizing of property during the recent unrest in the country. The country is faced with an acute shortage of day-old chicks following the outbreak of the avian influenza in neighboring South Africa. And now our bulletin in detail. The Kingdom of Eswatini has received a donation of 302,400 doses of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine from the United States government. The vaccine was received at the Kingdom's at the 3rd International Airport, where the U.S. Ambassador Jean Maloney handed it over to the Minister of Health, Lizinkosi.
The doses that the Kingdom of Eswatini received on Tuesday are part of the millions of COVID-19 vaccine doses donated by the United States of America to help African countries to upscale their vaccination programs. Eswatini received 302,400 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that arrived through the King Mswati III International Airport. The vaccine was handed over to the Minister of Health, Lizinkosi, by the U.S. Ambassador to Eswatini, Jean Maloney.
We're proud to be one of the largest donors to Eswatini's COVID-19 response. We know that the Ministry of Health has been poised to purchase and receive vaccines for weeks, and that the global availability of vaccines has been extremely limited. We will continue to work hand in hand with the Ministry to protect and improve the health of Eswatini, especially in this moment of crisis when COVID-19 cases are ticking up and global vaccine supplies are tight.
Minister of Health Lizinkosi expressed Eswatini's gratitude to the U.S. government for the donation of the vaccine, which is far beyond what the country has received.
This donation of vaccines today is going beyond what we have previously received. As we struggle for access to purchase COVID-19 vaccines, the value of this donation is indescribable to the Kingdom of Eswatini and to Africa as we seek to increase the proportion of the population that is protected. Vaccines will help to protect people. Those who get sick will be protected from severe illness. Most importantly, these vaccines will enable us to reach nearly 30% of the population of Eswatini. And this is a significant increase from where we stand now, where we've barely managed to reach about 4%.
The minister says the vaccination of the people using these doses is expected to end by the end of August. Reporting is Tembeli Makuchwa with Temba Shabangu.
On another note, the U.S. Embassy in Eswatini has announced a $2.125 million equivalent to 28 million emalangeni in COVID-19 assistance, which will help in the vaccine rollout. The assistance was announced by the U.S. Ambassador to Eswatini, Jean Maloney, during the delivery of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine at the Kingdom's at the 3rd International Airport.
The United States government, through its COVID-19 assistance for Eswatini, has donated over 20 million emalangeni to the Ministry of Health. The donation was made by Ambassador Jean Maloney, who says the donation will come handy in the country's fight against COVID-19 and vaccination rollout assistance. The amount will cover vaccine service delivery, which includes healthcare worker training and setting up of vaccination points at healthcare facilities. Among other things, Malone added that the assistance also covers vaccine systems and cold chain to harness private sector expertise for cold chain planning, storage, vaccine carriers, and maintenance. The assistance from the U.S. government will also cover vaccine communications and vaccine community engagement, targeted community mobilization, and demand creation focused on engagement of faith sector to promote COVID-19 vaccine uptake, among other sectors.
28.7 million emalangeni in vaccine rollout assistance, including vaccine systems, service delivery, communications, and more. The United States is proud to be the largest single donor to COVAX, and we're proud to be one of the largest donors to Eswatini's COVID-19 response. The United States is also committed to leading the global response to the COVID-19 pandemic and accelerating global vaccine distribution as the world's largest single-country donor to COVAX. All countries, regardless of income status, need vaccines that meet rigorous standards for safety and effectiveness. This donation is part of more than 80 million doses that President Biden announced on May 17th, and it's the result of the close collaboration between the United States, Eswatini, and our other international partners towards putting an end to this pandemic.
Over 1 million emalangeni of the assistance is from the Center for Diseases Control, which will cover vaccine service delivery. Meanwhile, over 27 million emalangeni is from the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, which will cover vaccine systems and cold chain, vaccine delivery, as well as vaccine communications and community engagement. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, Babane.
Following the recent unrest experienced in the country in the past weeks, which resulted in vandalism of property and looting of shops, 697 people have been arrested, including 2 members of parliament, Mduduzi Maqede Mabuza of Hosea constituency and Gwempisi member of parliament Mthandeni Dube. This is according to a press statement released by the National Commissioner of Police, William Tintsibala Dlamini.
The National Commissioner of Police, William Tintsibala Dlamini, says despite the arrest of 697 people, including most recently 2 members of parliament who are Hosea MP Mduduzi Mabuza and Gwempisi MP Mthandeni Dube, there is one other member of parliament, Mduduzi Makaukau Simelane, whose warrant of arrest is in police possession. He calls upon Simelane to surrender himself to the nearest police station. Dlamini continued to add that the investigation process is still forging ahead, and he anticipates that more violators of the law, be it instigators of violence and other players in the broad spectrum of unruliness, will be caught by the long tentacles of the law. Dlamini further appeals and urges all those who are in possession of looted properties to surrender their loot to the police to avoid falling foul of the law. On acts of criminality and violations of the law, Dlamini says what was glaring during the unrest were the rampant acts of criminality and violations of the law that were committed with shocking impunity. He says laws violated cover, among others, the common law and the statutory laws, such as the Suppression of Terrorism Act of 2008, Public Order Act of 2017, Road Traffic Act of 2007, and the Coronavirus COVID-19 Regulations 2020 under the Disaster Management Act of 2006. On the ongoing mobilization, Dlamini condemned such acts, saying it is greatly disturbing that while some people are still pained and wish to close the chapter on the violence that destabilized the country, there are elements who continue to mobilize and instigate for violence, especially through social media platforms. He condemns these antics in the strongest terms possible and urged the perpetrators to desist from such acts, or else the full extent of the law will take its course. Dlamini assures the nation that police, together with other security services, will continue with public order maintenance operations geared in ensuring that safety and security prevails in the country. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla with Muzi Mkonta Mbabane.
The Eswatini Dairy Board has stepped in to ensure increased production of hay bales as the country is unable to import this all-important cattle feed from South Africa due to the outbreak of foot and mouth disease in the neighboring state.
The outbreak of foot and mouth disease in South Africa occurred in May this year, and it was from June that local farmers were unable to buy hay bales from neighboring South Africa, as Eswatini banned their importation from the neighboring country to try and prevent the outbreak of foot and mouth disease in the kingdom. The ban of South African-produced hay bales in Eswatini has resulted in farmers facing serious shortages. Eswatini Dairy Board economist Bandile Mdluli says it has always been important for local farmers to produce enough feed for their livestock.
With one of the programs that we have is that we continue to bale for farmers who have extra land, which we can bale out there. We already baling for Balegani, Fufulane, and other farms who have allocated us some land to bale. So if any farmers who are out there who wish for the dairy board to lease our equipment to them for baling, they can feel free to contact us. And other smallholder farmers we also have a program for smallholder farmers who wish to join into the baling activity. Through this one, we also lease out baling boxes, of which the smallholder farmers can use to produce enough hay for themselves.
Ngulwini area-based dairy farmer Saul Bembe says he has always found it helpful to produce enough hay bales for his livestock, especially since with home produce bales, he doesn't spend much money buying feed for his dairy cows. He says many farmers incur unnecessary costs on the purchase of hay bales, whereas they can easily produce feed for their cattle by simply cutting grass in summer seasons and producing these bales. Under normal circumstances, the Eswatini Dairy Board buys at least 3,000 batches of hay bales each season from South Africa. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengiwe Ndlovu with Mbongwa Dube in Manzini.
Eswatini is currently faced with an acute shortage of day-old chicks, as locals can barely import these from South Africa due to the outbreak of avian influenza in the neighboring state. Director of Veterinary Services in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Xolani Dlamini, says the shortage of chicks has ultimately affected the availability of chicken meat in the country.
Poultry producers in Eswatini and especially chicken farmers are currently faced with an acute shortage of day-old chicks, as the kingdom's biggest suppliers of day-old chicks, which are Africa chicks and national chicks, cannot adequately replenish their stock of fertile eggs from neighboring South Africa due to the outbreak of avian influenza in the neighboring state. Director of Veterinary Services in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Xolani Dlamini, says it is unfortunate that the entire day-old chicks and chicken production value chains in Eswatini have been affected by the state of affairs in South Africa.
Bigger commercial farmers who actually are on contract with the hatcheries, on contract with the abattoirs. These tend to be a priority when it comes to the supply of day-old chicks because they pay before and they honor contracts. So even the hatchery has an obligation to honor the contract. Then when it comes to our small-scale producers, we find that because they are not on contract, they are the first one to lose out in terms of whatever little that is available. So as a result, the present shortage is affecting small-scale producers more than the large-scale producers. However, may I also quickly mention that yes, even the large-scale producers are now feeling the effect. One of our abattoirs, for example, for August, will not be able to have enough slaughter stock for at least 15 days, which means for 15 days there will be no slaughter in that particular abattoir. And that is just an indication of the extent of the problem.
Dr. Dlamini says there is no one overnight solution to this problem, as a long-term concerted effort is required from all stakeholders. Other diseases in South Africa that have adversely affected meat production in Eswatini include African swine fever, which affects pigs, and foot and mouth disease. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengiwe Ndlovu with Mbongwa Dube in Babane.
The Eswatini National Trust Commission is pleased with the support of chiefs and community leaders regarding nature conservation in their communities. ENTC Acting Landscape Development Coordinator Sabelo Mazibuko made an example of Eluzelweni Royal Kraal, which he says has set up laws and fines which aim to make residents conserve nature.
The Eswatini National Trust Commission goes on with its program of opening nature conservation places in communities. ENTC expressed its happiness on the support shown by community leaders and traditional structures.
The project has come with initiatives that will offset that. We are promoting honey production, where the project the approach is to transfer skills. They have to make their own beehives and then manage the apiary up to harvesting. And we also link them with the relevant stakeholders, which is the Ministry of Agriculture and the markets that are potential buyers of the produce. We also have free-range chicken that has been introduced into the chickens and rabbits. These meat initiatives are to reduce the incidences of poaching by the communities.
We have got one chiefdom which is called Luzelweni. Then we have got Chief Sotunwani Sakolo. He's one chief that has helped the project a lot in terms of even the community, in terms of showing the community of how to conserve nature. They've got a mountain that they call Ndungula Mountain Camp, which is one of the protected area where they've got the protected area. They were also declared under the OECMs, which is then they got a lump sum of 250,000 Malangeni to assist them in terms of upgrading their conservation skills.
Except for creating jobs opportunities in the communities like beekeeping and rabbit rearing as means to ensure that nature conservation programs continue smoothly, ENTC also links the farmers with markets. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla with Muzimkonda Ezulwini.
The Ministry of Health is encouraging people with even the smallest flu symptoms to go for COVID-19 testing as a matter of urgency. Vusi Logotwago, an epidemiologist in the Ministry of Health, says this should help curb the death rate, which is showing an upward trend.
The Ministry of Health reveals high-growing regional cumulative figures in Eswatini. The Manzini region currently holds a shocking 9,257 cumulative figure, while the Hoho region holds 8,835 cumulatively. Epidemiologist at the Ministry of Health, Vusi Logotwago, says the Shiselweni region currently holds the lowest cumulative figure with 2,282 cases. Logotwago says the Manzini region has the highest death toll, followed by the Hoho region. He says the Lubombo region has the lowest death toll.
I think when we look at the overall picture of COVID-19 in Eswatini, we can actually say that the cases seem to be increasing. That we are saying in looking at the patterns in terms of the distribution of cases, we're noting that where we are in terms of the third wave, it's by far much higher than the highest peak that we observed in the second wave and saw in the first wave. So we can say that the third wave rather, it looks more transmissible than the other waves, and we urge the nation to actually take all COVID-19 precautions so that they do not actually get COVID. And what we are always saying and noting as the ministry is that we want to minimize people from getting infected with COVID, because then if more people are infected, we tend to see a tendency of also deaths increasing. So we urge the nation to actually take the COVID precautions as possible so that we prevent infection. By doing so, we'll be even minimizing the number of deaths from COVID-related diseases.
Logotwago highlighted that while the Shiselweni region records the lowest number of people with COVID-19, it still has the highest death rate. He says this is because people infected with the coronavirus take time to seek medical attention. Logotwago therefore urged Emaswati to quickly seek medical assistance at the slightest symptom of sickness. For Eswatini TV News, Sifiso Ngumalo with Smuva Shongwe, Hlangano.
Businessman Moses Lopez says he will need to fork out 1 million emalangeni from his pockets in order to rebuild his vandalized property, the VIP Plaza at Satellite Ezulwini, which was vandalized and set on fire during the unrest that took place in the past few weeks. The businessman said this during an interview with Eswatini TV, where he explained the extent of the damage of his property, which houses, among other businesses, ShopRite stores.
VIP Plaza at the Satellite Ezulwini started operations 1.5 years ago. The plaza was also among those who were vandalized by looters during the recent unrest in the country. The owner of the plaza, Moses Slope, says he will need to have 1 million emalangeni in order to rebuild the structure, which was vandalized and set on fire during the unrest.
The damage is just too much for us, and yet we have just finished building up the, I think we've got 1.5 years. So we can't even go back to the bank. It's difficult. The bank is willing to help, but we just feel that the repayment will be very, very high. So we're trying at the moment to borrow here and there to see if someone can help us or sell something that we've got. The estimate, as I said, is about $1 million to do the outside for the small shops, the inside of the ShopRite shop, and everything that needs doing from our side. This does not include ShopRite. ShopRite damage is enormous.
Tope uploads His Majesty King Eswatini III for setting up the reconstruction fund of 500 million emalangeni, which he announced during the People's Parliament Sibaya, which will assist business community whose property was damaged during the unrest. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlanga Mandla with Muslim Konta Satellite.
An old woman, Busisiwe Dlamini of Manjolo area in the outskirts of Mbabane, is appealing for any form of assistance which could help relieve her 8-year-old grandson who is suffering from a severe skin condition which he suddenly developed in January. Dlamini says her grandson has been to several hospitals but none of the medication he's taking has helped him yet.
Gogo Busisiwe Dlamini's 8-year-old grandson had always been an active and healthy child until January this year, when he suddenly developed an itchy rash with blisters all over his body. The boy's grandmother says the lad spends sleepless nights and very uncomfortable days of itchy skin episodes that just don't go away. Gogo Dlamini says she's baffled by the boy's disease, as all medication that he has been given in hospital seems not to work. The old woman now thinks that her grandson's ailment may have been caused by a suspected traditional healer's bag which he found on the road in January and used it to play. Gogo Dlamini says it pains her to see her grandson suffering like this, especially since she does not have the money to take him for specialized medical attention. She says her only source of income is the money she gets from government's payment of elderly grants. She says the boy's mother is also sickly, as she is epileptic and also needs specialized medical care. She pleads for assistance as she desperately wants to see her grandson well again. Members of the public willing to assist the old woman and her grandson can call the boy's aunt on her mobile phone number, which is 783-22791. 783-22791. For Eswatini TV News, Hlengiwe Ndlovu with Mbongwa Dube at Manjolo.
And now let's have a look at our financial markets. Good evening once again. You're still watching Eswatini TV. Let's have a look at our sports news. Local taekwondo athlete Saneliso Masuku says he's very happy to have won gold and be chosen as the best player in an international competition. Masuku was speaking after attending the Maputo Open held in Mozambique.
With the whole world fully focused on the ongoing Tokyo Japan Olympics, athletes who did not qualify for that competitions are also busy competing in local tournaments. Local taekwondo artist Saneliso Masuku decided to take the opportunity to attend the Maputo Open, which was hosted in Mozambique over the past weekend. Saneliso did not only win the gold medal but was also selected as the best athlete in the whole tournament. Masuku says he is happy with his performance and winning the award, as he won as it shows that with better preparation he will go far as he likes the sport.
Akusinto lencane kimi ukuthi ngawina ligolide ngaphandle kwelive noma ngabe lelive likhona la tude. Ngona ngibuka kona ukuthi Mozambicans abantu labagcine kangakanani kuyakhomba ukuthi no umuntu uzamile ukudilungiselela wasebenza kakhulu. Kungiyiko ngijabula kakhulu for lethuba and ngalomdlalo besikade ngawuqala ukuwenda neminyaka leshumi ngiso inyangana ngaqala kwenda taekwondo and ngithanda kakhulu bekusifiso sami ukuthi ngabe kule spirit samanje sema Olympics ngabe nami ngithokozile lethuba lokuthi ngiyocompete kepha-ke ngalokubala Mozambique ngijabulise kakhulu ukuthi ngikhona compete khona ngimelele live.
Masuku says he wishes to be part of the next Olympics as he believes he can represent the country well in the big international tournament. Reporting for Eswatini TV Sports News, I am Patizwe Msibi, Mbabane.
That's all for now. Before we conclude, let's have a look at our top stories. The Kingdom of Eswatini has received over 300,000 doses of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine from the U.S. government. About 697 people have been arrested following the looting of shops and vandalizing of property during the recent unrest in the country. The country is faced with an acute shortage of day-old chicks following the outbreak of the avian influenza in neighboring South Africa. And with that, Eswatini, we sum up our bulletin for the evening. Up next is the weather update from myself and the team. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.